A few weeks ago, Samsung announced and released the Samsung Galaxy Tab S6 Lite, which in my opinion was more of an A-series tablet than an S-series tablet, for several reasons. Most important of all, anyone could tell that they have indeed cut corners in almost all aspects of the tablet experience, hardware or software. The lack of a first-party official keyboard cover, a mediocre LCD display in the hardware department, and the exclusion of Samsung DeX in terms of software meant that the Tab S6 Lite felt more like a mid-range tablet, which Samsung never denied since they slapped a Lite in the name of the device. But in my personal opinion, it still should not have deserved to be categorized as part of the S family. Fast forward to the August of 2020, and we have two new additions to the Tab S lineup, the Tab S7 family. The Tab S7 and the S7 Plus. They are both successors to the Tab S6. So today I would like to compare the two models, the S6 Lite and the S7 Plus. The first thing I would like to talk about is the screen quality and size, because for me personally, this was one of the most significant reasons for upgrading to the S7 Plus. The cheaper Tab S6 Lite comes in at 10.4 inches in terms of display size, and the technology at play here is TFT LCD. The resolution is 2000 by 1200, although the Tab S7 Plus may sound like a marginal upgrade in the screen department, since it has a screen real estate of 12.4 inches and a resolution of 2800 by 1752. This slight bump in size most certainly makes a difference when you are multitasking. The convenience of having two apps running side by side and not having to worry about squinting your eyes or pinching in to zoom to view smaller things would be taken for granted by most laptop users. However, having said that, most Android tablets are indeed pretty small, and that limits usability to a considerable extent. There is no worry in that regard with the S7 Plus. Plus, you get additional perks of having an AMOLED display, such as punchy colors and a brighter display overall. Moreover, I don't know if I had a defective unit of the Tab S6 Lite, but the one I had was prone to image retention, whereas on the S7 Plus, I have yet to experience any form of pixel burn-in. Now let's talk about that S Pen and that 120Hz refresh rate found on the display of the Tab S7 Plus. Now you guys are probably wondering, why didn't I mention the 120Hz refresh rate back when I was talking about that display? Well, that is because I didn't really notice any difference in terms of the smoothness of the motion on the display. But having used the Tab S7 Plus in conjunction with the S Pen for about 4 days or so, what I did notice is that the high refresh rate did help significantly with the S Pen's perceived latency. In other words, it looked a lot faster. On top of that, the S6 Lite supposedly has a shorter latency over its older but larger sibling, the full Tab S6. But the slow processing speed found on the S6 Lite due to the cheap processor pulled that down, and eventually the S6 Lite failed to keep its promise on delivering a more smoother S Pen experience. In fact, it felt a tad slower than the Tab S6 from my brief testing. The S Pen found on the Tab S7 Plus does indeed feel faster, and as a result, it sure makes the improved S Pen nicer to have. One thing I will point out though is that the charging strip on the back of the Tab S7 Plus isn't as intrusive when placed on a flat surface as I thought it would be. In fact, it was kind of nice to have the slanted angle. But this may vary from user to user and preferences, so do try the device out at a local store before buying it. As mentioned in my previous review, which will be linked up there, the Tab S6 Lite has a decent way of storing the S Pen when not in use, but only with the book cover, which is sold separately. The magnet on the side is strong and reliable, but the pen got in the way when I was using the tablet in portrait mode because it was attached to the side of the device. The next thing I'm going to talk about relates more to people who are not just purchasing a tablet purely for entertainment or media consumption. If you are considering a tablet to replace your laptop or even your desktop, this section of the video is just for you. Contrary to what people think, the Tab S6 Lite does have a keyboard cover available, just not official first-party ones. Although I haven't had a chance to try any of them, I did try using a Logitech keyboard and even a Korean foldable keyboard on this Tab S6 Lite. And what I can tell you from having used it in school is that it works fine for the most part. By that most part, I mean flaw number 1, you need a book cover to prop it up, which I did have, but remember, the book cover doesn't come as a freebie. It's a separate purchase that you have to make, which is perfectly normal by today's standards. It's just that the book cover costs nearly 1/5 of the tablet. At that point, you're really better off getting a Lenovo Duet Chromebook or a device like that. That one even comes with a free 2-piece keyboard cover and costs within the $300 to $400 range. You could opt for a tablet stand for the S6 Lite, but that would be another item for you to carry around in your backpack. The Galaxy Tab S7 Plus model has its own official book cover keyboard. Compared to that of the last year's model, the keyboard cover for this new device is a lot more well thought out. The keys are less squirkly, if that's even a word. The new dedicated function key row, available only on the larger S7 Plus model, is useful from time to time, and although the arrow keys are kind of cramped, all the other keys are decently sized and well laid out. The pins for the keyboard portion of the cover connect without much issue, though the other 2 contact points don't line up on the first try from time to time. The magnet back piece also has a sturdy hinge to prop the screen up. Just make sure that when you open the flap, you open it from the sides, so that you don't accidentally end up taking off the entire cover piece. DeX has been absent on the Tab S6 Lite, and we all know it's gonna stay that way for the tablet in question. You could try one of those emulated desktop-styled Android launchers available on the Google Play Store, but if it really is something that you can imagine yourself using quite a bit, opt for the Tab S7 Plus. It comes with the latest version of DeX pre-installed. All you have to do to activate it is to hit the DeX button on the quick toggles panel, use the function keys on your keyboard cover, assuming you purchased one of course, or to have it launch automatically upon attaching the keyboard. I have tried using the keyboard cover in the normal Android user interface, and it seems to work just fine with one caveat. These 2 keys, the @ symbol and the quotation mark keys, are swapped on Android for some reason. This issue is non-existent on Samsung DeX. Something that caught me by surprise in a good way was the support for horizontal scroll wheels on Samsung DeX. If you have a computer mouse that has a horizontal scroll feature baked in or available, you can make use of that in most apps, including Microsoft Word. To sum up DeX, even if DeX does seem appealing to you, all it is essentially just a skin that modifies the user interface, that makes it more suitable for multitasking and use with a keyboard or a mouse, or both for that matter. And multitasking on One UI 2.5, which the Tab S6 Lite is most likely to be upgraded to sooner or later, already has good enough split screen view and even pop-up view. In short, don't let DeX be the deciding factor for which tablet to purchase. It definitely is much better than those launchers on the Play Store though. In terms of thickness and portability, both devices are slim and lightweight without any covers attached. However, the Tab S7 Plus does get significantly thicker and heavier when you slap the keyboard book cover on it. In contrast, the Tab S6 Lite maintains a slim profile even after you put it on the book cover that I talked about earlier. One thing people tend to look past and even dismiss when deciding on which device to purchase is in fact the biometric authentication methods, and different ways to unlock the device in general. Depending on whether or not you will be using your tablet outside of home, you might want to consider opting for the Tab S7 Plus, since the facial recognition found on the Tab S6 Lite is much inferior to that on the S7 Plus. If face recognition isn't your thing, the Tab S7 Plus also rocks an optical in-display fingerprint scanner. It's also worth noting that the non-Plus variant of the Tab S7 sports a rather traditional side-mounted fingerprint sensor. In addition, if you're going to use the Tab S6 Lite with a password combination instead of a pattern, you should also take into consideration the fact that you're restricted to either a Bluetooth keyboard to key in that password or the virtual keyboard found on Android, both of which are not nearly as good as a dedicated keyboard cover. In all honesty, the rest of the user experience isn't that much drastically different. Of course, specs-wise, the Tab S7 Plus absolutely trashes the S6 Lite, and if you're going to play some games on your brand new tablet, you won't have much luck on the Tab S6 Lite. But for average users, The other specs in terms of performance and whatnot won't matter that much. The S6 Lite is still pretty snappy, even without taking its price into consideration. If you can, try to visit a local Samsung store and see for yourself whether the features that you feel are the most important to you really make the experience that much better on the Tab S7 Plus. If not, and if you are on a budget, or you know you won't be using your brand new tablet to do much else other than multimedia consumption, I would go for the Tab S6 Lite. But if you are planning to use your tablet as a replacement for your laptop, the S6 Lite just won't cut it. Get the Tab S7 Plus. Apart from that, that's all from me today. Thank you for watching. This has been Jin Kim from Galaxable TV, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.